guys. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. How are you?
Good. So we've got Jess and Doz here. Um, Welcome to WOTBaby Conversations.
Thank you.
And you've got a little girl, Piper, who is 8.5 months. And I had the privilege of meeting her 2 weeks ago and coming and meeting you guys and doing a home visit. And at the time, Piper wasn't sleeping much. Either were both of you. You looked very tired when I came to see you. And yeah, she was feeding on demand, wasn't she? You're breastfeeding,
Yep,
aren't you,
yep,
Jess?
yep.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding, and she was feeding quite a bit.
Yeah, so she was feeding on demand and waking up multiple times. How many times was she waking at night?
Anywhere from 2 to kind of 5 on a bad night. Yeah, definitely lots of time.
Yeah, and feeding her back to sleep. And so you're pretty tired. Yeah.
Exhausted.
Not a lot of sleep at all.
Yeah.
And even when there was sleep, it wasn't really kind of, call it fake sleep.
Just a little bit of a nap here and there.
Yeah.
So no restorative sleep. So then you called me to come and help you. So tell us a little bit about, the journey, because it wasn't until she was 8 months that you reached out and decided, enough is enough. Obviously you were so sleep deprived, and so there was something that obviously happened that brought you to the decision. So tell us a little bit about life before you contacted me and asked for help.
Well, basically, she was never a good sleeper. Since she was born, pretty much she always took quite a bit to get to sleep. Holding her and rocking her, or in the pram and kind of rocking the pram a lot.
Was this from birth, right off the bat? Yeah.
Right off the bat. And I guess she's our first baby, so we're kind of just trying to do what's, I guess, easiest, or what you think will get the quickest result. And yeah, she was just never a good sleeper, and we kind of fell into a pattern quite quickly of just catering to her demands and going along with what we felt she kind of needed, rather than our sort of structure. And she was down with us, like kind of sleeping in the living room area with us for quite a while, and then when we did put her up in the room, that was a big change for us.
How long was that? What age was that when you put her in her own room?
Put her in her own room, or just
or upstairs out of the lounge room? Yeah.
It was pretty early. I mean, it would have been within a couple of weeks.
It definitely was like one
we
or
had
2
we
months,
would alternate, because there'd be times where like she'd kind of be sleeping downstairs, and then we would kind of be worried to kind of move her. And again, as first time parents, we were always given advice by friends and family, etc., who've had kids. But I think, as Jess said before, we started off on the wrong foot anyway, because she was unfortunately cow milk intolerant too, so that added to things.
She was very unsettled. She was always a really unsettled baby, a lot of crying and whinging, and just very difficult to get to sleep. And it was only at about the 4-month mark that we got a diagnosis of a cow's milk protein intolerance.
Right. Yeah.
She was up in our room very, I feel, very early. But yeah, it was always kind of, you just get that anxiety levels every time that there was kind of like a time to get her to sleep, or especially nighttime was always like, how we're going to get through to the morning, and what surprises were going to be in store for us.
So every night you were just going to bed anxious, I guess.
Yeah, every night. And then it came to a point where she was always being rocked to sleep. So I'd always hold her.
Of course.
Early on it was okay, when she was just 3-4 kilos, but slowly, obviously, she's gaining weight, she's getting heavier.
And do you find it takes longer to get her to sleep as she was growing and developing?
And that was the toughest thing as well, because when I was at work and then coming home for the kind of nighttime, is that it kind of take one of us away because of just how lengthy it was to get her to sleep, or you know, those kind of times. So, you know, we kind of never really saw each other during the day, and then because of that, you know, period at night where we basically had to cater for her when she was crying, and, you know, again, doing whatever we needed to do to kind of get through the days and the night. But yeah, it just became that with kind of our relationship, and it was almost like at a point where we just knew that, you know, come those times at night, that it would be one of us, or mainly Jess anyway, just kind of being there up for hours. And then by the time she got down and had accomplished her mission of getting her to sleep, you know, she can imagine more to what she was, knowing full well that she probably had to get up a couple of hours later for a feed anyway.
So hard work.
You'd like start making dinner, and then she'd wake up and cry, and you go back up again, and then you don't know, will you be up for 5 minutes to resettle her? Will it be an hour? You know, nights just were so chaotic. We couldn't really go out and leave her with, you know, one of her grandparents, because she was so unsettled. It was so difficult to get her to sleep. And we just had no life, no structure, and
we didn't want to put that on anybody else as well, purely because obviously we were the ones who wanted to have a child, but because our parents are also a lot older than, you know, my you know, we've got brothers and sisters and my nieces and nephews, and, you know, our parents were a lot younger when they had their kids, so it was a lot easier for them to help out and stuff. But because they're a lot older now, it's big, you know, and because Piper was so kind of tough, really, it's just, it was more our burden to kind of deal with. But that's why we did it in our way, that, you know.
That's just so like, we all know parenting's hard, and even before you have kids, I'm sure you hear stories from other parents, you know, it's hard, and you know, look out, get your sleep and all that sort of thing. But you know, parenting is really, really hard. It's a hard journey. But for it to be that hard, you know, it shouldn't be that hard.
Like, we knew that it was difficult, but again, it was just like, oh, well, she's just an unsettled baby, or she's just not a great sleeper. So the cow's milk protein intolerance, that was a great time to go, oh wow, it's not us. You know,
I bet you were relieved. I bet you were relieved. So she wasn't diagnosed until, you said, 4 months? It's quite late down the track.
Yeah.
And so had you thought over that 4 months, like, is there something wrong with her, or is it
a little bit? I had a sense that there was something in her tummy that wasn't right. Like, she would squirm a lot and cry, kick her legs. I don't know, I guess it's a mother's,
you know, that's a sign of an unsettled babies do that. Though.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing, is working out what it is.
So, you know, a lot of, you know, research into ways to make sure she was always burped, or how to do wind and the bicycle legs and all of that kind of stuff.
I don't like to toot my own horn, but I did mention, I think that was me who mentioned it, that I just asked, I said to Jess, I'm like, I wonder if it could be anything with your diet, what you're eating, what you're giving to her, you know, I wonder if that, you know, something like that. And I think that sparked kind of the conversation, and then the look into, really.
But isn't that the hardest thing to hear, though, Jess? Like, as a mum, when you're feeding, or is it what, you know, you're eating, you know, and you get told, don't drink coffee, don't eat chocolate, all those sorts of things. It's a really hard thing to work out. Is it that because they're unsettled? Is that why, you know, they're getting the wind and the pain, or is it the food? So I'm really glad that she was diagnosed, and then
it did change. Like, the pediatrician was like, look, just give it a go for 2 weeks of no dairy and see what happens. And within a few days, I think it was big change.
Wow, you saw the big
night
change.
And day. Yeah. I mean, I felt so, obviously my heart broke for Jess, because there was a lot of stuff that she had, you know, daily intakes of stuff that she loved,
a lot of dairy
and whatnot. So it was a big sacrifice for Jess as well, because she wanted to kind of continue with the breastfeeding. So it was, you know, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to kind of diagnose it earlier, because I think that would have changed things drastically for us. But it is what it is, and, you know, I'm glad we got to that point eventually.
Yeah. So then from then, obviously, she settled down a bit, but the sleep wasn't settling down a bit.
No, look, I guess around that time we did start to get, because we were away just before that. And when we're away, we did start to get some kind of 8-hour stretches from her.
Right.
She went through her 4-month regression at about 3.5 months. So she went through that a bit earlier. And so by about the 4 months, we were starting to get a little bit of traction of decent stretches, not so many wake ups, starting to kind of put her down at a more regular time, although it was very late. She has always gone to bed very late. And so we were like, okay, you know, and then the diagnosis, okay, we're starting to turn a corner here, maybe, you know, now it's going to change.
Yeah.
And I think for a while it got a little better, you know, I guess manageable. But again, it was still always holding her. When she woke up during the night, if she did, it was always breastfeeding her back to sleep, which dummy, I know is not ideal. She had the dummy.
Just to kind of, you know, settle her at those times that we thought, you know.
Well, you guys had been doing that for 4 months, right? So
she only had a dummy about 6 weeks in. We didn't start with the dummy. Yeah. She only kind of got that, 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
But it did help at that point in time when, you know, when
it was first
introduced.
So yeah, she went okay for a while, and then I guess around the 5-6 month mark it started getting very difficult again, and as I said, just the weight of her, it became much more difficult to rock her to sleep. I did try at night times just to put her down in the cot and give her the opportunity to fall asleep by herself, and a few times she did.
It was one, I'd probably say once, maybe once every 2 weeks. That would work.
Sometimes if it was 40 minutes, I'd end up picking her up and rocking her. Day sleeps, I still rocked her because I just wanted to get her to sleep quickly. And to be honest, during the day, it did work. She would often fall asleep 5-10 minutes. I'd transfer her down successfully and she'd go to sleep. So it was kind of manageable. But
then how long would she sleep for when you'd rock her off in your arms and you'd transfer her? How long would she sleep
40 minutes or sometimes an hour and a half.
Okay.
So, you know, there was some success, but I don't know, it was just around the 7 month mark there were a few nights in a row that were just really difficult. The rocking, the waking up, and it just got to a point where we're like, we can't continue doing this.
I mean, you're always going to be tired as a parent. I mean, everyone says that, you just don't, you know, you don't sleep regardless, but it just got to a point where it was just, you know, walking around like zombies, and then just trying to get through the day, and then having the same kind of, you know, I mean, in our sense, that our routine of doing the same things, which, you know, obviously a baby needs a routine, but we were just, we were catering to our routine really to kind of get, you know, to get through it. But it's just, it just got to a breaking point where, like, you know, something had to give.
Something had to change.
Something had to change. Something had to give. And you know, we, as much as, you know, we had kind of, you know, advice around us and whatnot, but we needed, you know, it was
needed proper help and guidance.
I bet, were you getting a lot of advice?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our friends have kids, so I mean, not that it was unsolicited advice, but you know, you just.
I think for the first few months, we always kind of came back to the one advice one of our friends gave us, and it was just like, you do what you need to do to survive. That was like the advice they gave it, you know. And then we kind of tried to kind of, you know, manage it ourselves, and then we knew that, you know, obviously this wasn't going to be forever, as you kind of put it in your mind, and we'll try new things, as Jess said. She'd put it down, you know, here and there. But I think because we were so far behind and on the back burner as soon as we had a kid, and because of her kind of initial issues, that we've never had that kind of energy to be able to kind of like really sit through it or really kind of give it a go. And because, as again, our first child, it was really kind of hard to sit there and listen to her cry, even for a few seconds, let alone, you know, and that's why it was just our trigger, our, you know, emotional hearts to just kind of run to every time that was the case.
Exactly.
And I know people say when they have second kids and thirds, etc., like, you know, you kind of learn from that, but as first time
you don't have time to run to the crying baby, do you? And you've got other children
it's, you know, it's just, you know, it was.
But it's just, and there was great advice, like your friend saying, you know, do whatever you have to do to survive, and that's it. But it's so, like, why is it that we say things like that? Why are we saying, you know, if you're just surviving, then perhaps it's okay for you to want something different. It's okay for you to go, hang on a minute, this isn't right. We need to change something and be brave and change what we're doing.
Being brave was a big thing. Like, I just felt because she still doesn't love to roll, but because she wasn't rolling or moving, I actually kept her swaddled for quite a long time. And she was also still in her bassinet, still in our room, at a time when most other babies her age were far more, you know, forward than that. So I think it was a lack of being brave and a lack of, I guess, being scared of that change. Yeah. And I just, at one point, just realized she has to progress. Like she's, you know, coming up to 7 months now. We need to get her out of the swaddle. We need to get her in her own room. We need to get her in a cot. So all of those changes happened very quickly. And that's at a time when you also came into the picture. So yeah, it just,
that's it. We need to change with our babies. We need to
and she wasn't.
Communicate with them like differently. Yeah, we have to change. But how parents, you know, must find it so difficult, because how are you supposed to change and move forward if you don't really understand how your baby's changing, or as they change, what they really need from you? Because we're still doing the things that we do when we bring them home from the hospital and they're newborns. Yeah, we do it all for them, because we have to when they're newborns and they're, you know, they've got the primitive reflexes going on, and it's all just instinctual and survival. So we do it all for them, but very quickly do they change. And then they start learning, and they need us to guide them and show them the way rather than do it for them, because that clearly, in your instance, like doesn't work for long. It might work here or there, but it doesn't work ongoing, because they just want you to guide them rather than do it for them. So, and the crying, the emotional thing with the crying, that's a huge thing. And particularly, I've always found, and it was the same with my babies, you know, all three of them, we had a different start and experience with all three of them. And I find it's the birth, your feeding journey, the start, any feeding problems that you have, or things that happen in the beginning. I think really the emotion is really attached to all of that. So, and the mother guilt and the dad guilt, and you're trying to be, you know, strong for Jess Doz, and you're trying to, you know, be strong for her, and you're trying to do all the things, and it's just, yeah, it can be really emotional. And then that gets attached to the sleep part, because obviously when we ask our babies to go to sleep, and when we sleep we turn the lights out and we swaddle our babies up and we start to give them the things they need to be able to sleep. And so then I think I used the analogy of the wind-up doll, didn't I, that we need to unwind and go to sleep. And so what babies do is they cry when they're doing that. But if they're fed and they're watered and they're loved and they're clean and they're dry, then maybe the cry is got to do with the fact that they need to de-stress and unwind, and that's how they, and the more overtired they are, the more they cry. So then it goes back to the emotional thing, and you react. Because you want her to be okay, you don't want her to be in pain, and you don't want her, you know, to be hungry or not warm or swaddled. And
she cried, and it was always, how do we stop her? You know?
Yeah, because in our minds, or in my mind especially, it's just like, you know, you hear a cry, and as a human being, you automatically think that someone's in pain for the pain, or, you know, whatever pain reason. But yeah, we didn't, you know, we never kind of realized, well, I didn't anyway, to the point of, you know, what the different cries are for. And obviously, first time parent, you know, you just like kind of going through kind of, you know, the checklist of what they could be crying for and stuff like that. But yeah, never realizing or thinking about it more so when it became time to sleep, you know, and what they really needed, but never thinking like that as well, is that, you know, yeah, they're fed, they're warm, you know, they're safe. Like there's all these kind of reasons, but yeah, that never once kind of came into my thinking at all, you know. And I don't think with all the advice and all the things that we were told, etc., by friends and family, not one person could have like broken that down and basically, you know, I would have loved to have been told that in the first couple of weeks of having a child, because what a difference, you know, that's the game changer, really.
Well, it's education. If you know better, you do better, right? Not that you were doing badly, because you're doing an amazing job. She's beautiful and she's thriving, and you know, you do it. But when you know differently, then you can start to become responsive, I guess, rather than reactive, and it can make all the difference. And it helps you to work. Well, I find it helps you to work out more quickly what's wrong with her. Like, is she sick, or is she what is there a problem? So you decided to contact me, and how were you feeling before I arrived? Were you nervous about what was going to happen?
A little.
Yeah, I think it was mixed with both. I was kind of excited because I knew we needed to take this step.
Yeah.
So for you coming and being, I think the day before, it was like, I'm glad this is here. It's kind of like finally arrived, and this is, and realistically, we knew straight away that you were going to make a difference, because obviously we were doing, I mean, it wouldn't have been, a bigger thing to be better than what we've been doing, but I think that's why I kind of had both, but I was also nervous to the point of, what the process of it, and what's going to happen next, because it was the unknown, really.
You were nervous,
but more kind of excited that, not excited, but yes, this needed to happen. So
and then when I came in and put her to bed,
I think
how was that?
Well, it was. I mean, it wasn't, again, like, we trusted you from the get-go. Like, you walked into our house, it was like, whatever you say went. It wasn't like anything that, even if I had thoughts to myself. But I remember when we asked you about the dummy, and we're like, because we didn't expect that to happen so quickly. Just like,
what are your thoughts on a dummy?
The conversations is straight. No, and that's it. So that's what I thought. All right, how really is this going to go now? And especially because we've seen over the last 7 months, etc., or 8 months, and I'm just like, you kind of think to yourself, oh, I know my daughter. I just don't think. But yeah, it was very kind of, but we had to kind of stand back, and
it's a thing. You have to start somewhere. And babies they're not developed like we are, where we have a mind that can think about things and process things and rationalize. And so when you're thinking about, I don't know, maybe changing your lifestyle or your health or whatever, some people might go, well, I want to start slowly with just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, or change one thing a day. And you can think about that, and it's a process. But with babies, their minds aren't that developed. They don't remember yesterday. They don't they don't know tomorrow's coming. They can't work that out. They just trust the process, and they live in the here and the now. So if you go into it with just, okay, well, we'll do a little bit of this and give her the dummy sometimes, or sometimes rock her off to sleep, depending on how I feel, or that they just get more confused, and it doesn't get anywhere. So with babies, you have to make a decision. You have to, first of all, sort of have a plan and know what she needs rather than what you think she wants. And that's why I say you're brave parents, because you literally have to do a total 360 and start, I call it opposite day, doing completely the opposite to what you were doing before, because she needs you right off the bat. You make the decision, you make the plan, and then you have to be brave and you have to execute it and just be consistent from that first sleep. There's no sort of fluffy way to go about it. And that's what they need, because they don't understand anything else. They don't understand little by little.
Yeah, and I think that was, when it started, and just I remember you saying that, and I think that kind of struck a chord as well, because my mindset was like, if I put her to sleep and she's screaming, and then as soon as I go in, when she wakes up from that nap, she's just going to have her evil eyes on me, like, you devil, like, Father, how could you do that? And for some reason, that's just, but as you said, like, they don't only know the here and now. And
exactly. And so it's really that first 24, maybe 48 hours, not even, where, there is an element, and I think I said it to you, there is an element of confusion on Piper's part, like, why aren't they responding the way they were before? And it's not like she's thinking like that, oh, how dare they, I'm holding such a grudge. It's just because it's been a habit. So she behaved a certain way, and then from that, something's happened. And so when that's something that happens, changes, and it's not like you're neglecting her and giving her nothing. It's just you're giving her consistent guidance, but it's different to the way it was before. So of course, that first day, she's going to keep asking and ask even louder for what her mind and her pathways have been telling her. So it's that first 24 hours, but by the second day, they actually understand. And you notice that with Piper, like you do a guidance visit and pat the mattress and walk out, and then she might scream at you, but then once you've walked out, she might like settle down a bit.
Yeah.
And she'd actually gone, yep, I heard what you said, Mum. I heard that, you want me to sleep. And then you got out of her way and she was able to calm herself. So yeah, it's just about being consistent, really consistent. And the older your baby is, the more consistent you need to be, because they're looking at you for direction. And so by the second, third day, that's just their new normal. And you've got everything covered within a routine. So you're eliminating all the things and giving her what she needs. And then they learn to trust the process because they know what's coming next. Like, Mum and Dad have got my back. Like, I know when it's feed time. They know when it's feed time and sleep time and all those things. So it's not just about the sleep. It's about the routine and the consistency as well.
Yeah. And we knew that once we got you in, that things were going to change. Like, we never got her up as early as we do now.
When we're looking back on it, we had her on our routine.
Yeah,
because
it was more
a
based
routine
around
that for us to just survive. That was,
But we knew that would have to change, and we knew that there would be, I mean, we're not morning people, but so now getting up at, 6:37 is a big shock to our system. But we committed to making those changes because we knew that that's what she needed.
She needed, exactly.
We haven't done much in terms of family or going out the last 2 weeks because we've just really wanted to get this routine stuck down and have that consistent approach so that she knew that that's
because
exactly what was
that
happening.
will work for everybody. We'd be able to have our parents kind of, come and look after her and know and have that just,
That's right. And now you can make plans, right?
Yes.
You find now that she's in a routine that's guided by you.
Yeah.
Do you feel that gives you freedom to plan your life a little bit more?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, before we were kind of, people would want to come visit us and see Piper, and they'd be, all right, we're going to come around this time, and then we would be questioning it, like, oh, she might be awake, exactly, and they'd rock up and she'd be asleep, or we'd want to go out and she'd be sleeping, thinking that she'd be waking up, and it was just all over the place. And
very hard
as much as it's, it's a mission for us at the moment to get up at 7 because we weren't those people, but
you have to work on your sleep hygiene now.
The difference is, again, coming to that point now, and it was so spontaneous, I guess, the results with you in terms of the nighttime sleep.
Yeah.
It's like, being able to put it down at 6:30, which was it was never our reality, let alone, I don't think we would have ever dreamed about doing that from the 8 months that we've had with Piper.
Yeah.
But having that, and I guess having that, knowing that at the end of the night, that's always going to kind of happen. Well, not always, because it's always
right. Gets you through the day.
Does.
And I think that's what I said to you when I first came to see you. It's the first thing that gets better. And all parents, like, it's a 12-hour day. It's not an 8-hour work day. It's a 12-hour work day. It's 24/7. And so it's a 12-hour day for Piper. It's a long day. And even though she might get 2 cot times, it's a lot of work that you guys have to do. And
I mean, that was, you said 2 cot times. I mean, that was the other thing. I mean, we had her on 4 sleeps a day.
No, she was 3.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
It was 3 sleeps.
And you were focused on the sleep.
Yeah.
Right? I've got to get her to sleep. Her sleep means her sleep, but it's not. It's rest time, and there's stages to sleep. We think that our babies are born and we put them off to sleep, and for the rest of their life, we just got to knock them out and put them to sleep and keep them asleep. And so it's just this obsession with sleep, but it never happens because you're so obsessed with making it happen.
Yeah.
You don't get out of the way. So it's about cot time and about, Piper learning to know what bedtime is, to be happy in that environment. And I know she's improved a lot, but you did mention that she still has a moments where she goes back into that habitual behavior of, I find sleep hard, so I'm going to cry and ask for something. But the majority of the time she's either asleep or starting to now have periods of being awake and happy.
Yeah, we're starting to see those periods where she can be in the cot for 20 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes, just lying there, and that is slowly increasing. But for me, that really, when you said that it's about cot time, not necessarily sleep time, I don't know, it's just like, oh, okay, that makes us so much sense.
We never really thought of that either. You know, it's kind of like having her time, you know, in
even
the
if
cot
she's
as
not
well.
asleep, it's still.
So, I mean, a lot of the time when she was in our room and we'd wake her up, she would be in the cot, and she, you know, like when you're there, kind of waking her up, and she'd always kind of be happy, but never to the point of leaving her by herself there for, you know, a bit.
Yeah. So it's a journey. It's about going to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep, and as our children get older, it's about us guiding them. Otherwise, you know, when she's 2, you'll be saying, you know, it's time for your rest, and she'll be running around the house going, nah. And then, you know, they don't have a rest and rule the roost, and then that merges into other things. And it's parenting and you directing her. So things are good now. She sleeps every night.
She sleeps every night. We put her to bed, 6:30, 7 at the latest, and we do not go in that room until 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
You know, she still sometimes will wake up and cry a little bit, you know, 10, 20 minutes, but she'll put herself back to sleep. Or sometimes, you know, 3, 4, 5 a.m., like 1 or 2 minute cry, which might be in her sleep. But never.
But because of your guidance, I guess, and the confidence, as you said as well. I remember when we saw you that day, and you said, you know, as the days go on, you'll get more confident in terms of, like, you know, the cries coming through, but you're not, like, you know, as you said, educating ourselves in terms of, you know, what she's kind of crying out for and what she's needing, and these signals of, you know, the kind of, and just something that we just weren't aware of. But now that we are, it's become a more comfortable. I mean, I still hate it when I put it down and she's still kind of crying, but I think, you know, after the 7 minutes or however long it takes her to just kind of go to sleep herself, I still sit there in amazement, just looking at her going, well, how has she done this without the dummy and without her rocking? So
exactly. And she does cry, but it's literally, I think today is exactly 2 weeks since you started. So the older a baby is, the longer it takes, but the improvements, you know, within that first week, I think you're looking at like 70%. And then, yes, there's the periods where she still cries. But you said to me, I think, Jess, that like lately there's periods where she'll wake up mid-sleep and be happy. And then other times she's not. But she falls back into that pattern, which are just her pathways and what she's been conditioned to do, in a sense, that when she's looking for that sleep, and at nighttime we merge, and babies do it more than we do, in and out of sleep cycles through the night. So depending where she's at, you said sometimes she'll cry and whinge for 10, 20 minutes before she finds the deep sleep. Where before she would scream and you'd rush in and do something. So it's just that period of time where she's gone into a light sleep, become aware, and then she's not just after 2 weeks just going to go, yeah, I get it, I'm going to go back to sleep. She's going to, in her sort of sleepy state, just switch back into that habitual behavior, but you stay out of her way and she finds it herself. And it's like us having a busy night. And she's 8 months, so she might be learning to roll over and do all these. She might not be doing it right now, but she's, in her mind, her body's preparing and getting ready to do all these things. So she's got a lot of information to file away. And she just, during the night, can be busy and a bit noisy. And hopefully over the next couple of weeks, you'll start to hear her singing or talking when she's awake at nighttime. And they can be awake so often. I've seen videos of babies awake for like a long time. I think now there's a new terminology called split nights or something, but it's just literally they're awake and they're busy. And it takes them a little while to find the deep sleep. But the difference between a good sleeper, a baby that sleeps through, and one that doesn't, is that this baby does it quietly. And this baby has been conditioned to call out and ask for help. But they're still doing exactly the same thing, going in and out of sleep cycles. So,
I mean, it's just amazing for us that she can do it, you know, like, as I said, she had in her 8 months, there were times she did long stints. So like we knew she had it in her, but we still just sit
But they were
here
very
in
rare.
amazement.
They were
at
rare occurrences when those happen, and we would look at each other and go, "Wow," like that, But there was never consistency with it.
Now it's every night. You know that you're putting her down, and then you can do what you need, whether it's going out, whether it's watching a movie together that's not going to be interrupted. We can actually eat dinner together.
Yeah. Watching shows that are not recorded. Yeah.
Watching shows that are when they're actually on rather than later. It's totally changed our lives, and for her better. And for our better, and I think we're still surprised that it's the night times are now like this. The daytimes do have still a lot of a bit more work to do, but the night times, as you said, they changed almost instantly.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest shock, because and I think you even mentioned it. I mean, everything that you kind of told us would happen basically happened. It was like a play-by-play.
The nighttime sleep.
Yeah, but I think we needed someone like you, because, and I think most people, I would recommend highly in the same position as us, because, realistically, if Jess and I would have kind of embarked on this ourselves and tried to do this our own way, I just don't think both of us at this point in time, especially after the 8 months, would have ever been able to kind of deal with it or cope with it, doing it the right way without someone educating us in terms of, every single step of the way, from, kind of putting it down, what needs to happen, what she's crying for, all these different things, which is...
And keep you confident, because it's confidence, right?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's confidence to be brave and to do the opposite to what you were doing before. It's
you've got to trust in it. You've got to trust in the process as well. And I think maybe a lot of people kind of, get told a certain thing and then they kind of sway from that. But, we just know immediately, as soon as we called you and got you in, we knew that we would be sticking to what you said. And, no matter what kind of, what we thought or whatever it was, we got you in for the reason. So, we had to stick with it, and we definitely have done that. I mean, there's not one morning that we haven't been up at 7 o'clock. So I know that.
Well, maybe you need to start going to bed a bit earlier. She's asleep at 6:30, so stop staying up. I guess you're catching up on all those shows you recorded, though, right?
Absolutely. I need a trainer to get me back sleeping early. But I was, as a kid, I always went. As a child, I always went to bed late, so we understood where Piper was probably getting it from.
The other thing I found really interesting was, Jess, you were saying to me that you've never been a good sleeper, that it's kind of a thing. And so, a lot of people ask me, maybe my baby's just not a good sleeper because I'm not, or, maybe they don't need as much sleep as what other babies do, and we can kind of think it's genetic or whatever, but really sleep's universal. And I guess however it's come to be that you're not a great sleeper, it doesn't mean that we're born that way or that we don't need the sleep. And were you thinking that with her? Were you thinking, well, maybe because I'm not a good sleeper, she's not a good sleeper?
No, we joked that, it could be that, or, that Doz likes going to bed late, so she likes going to bed late, but,
she has been put to sleep,
I was like, come to bed. He's like, no. And I'm like, well, that's what your daughter's saying. And she's like, no, I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to go to bed. But, just more in a joking way, not really thinking that really she could have gotten that. But we would like to joke that she's got our terrible sleeping habits.
So that's what people say when you have a child, and they're just like babies at the start. They just love to eat, sleep, and go to the toilet. And when people just said that, we were just looking at each other for 8 months, going, "Well, where's our baby's sleep?
Where's the sleep part of
that? Why is ours different?" Exactly. But sleep's universal, and our babies, our happy, healthy babies, are born knowing how to sleep. As humans, it's in our DNA. We have to sleep, so they all know how to do it. We just need to guide them. So yeah. Well, thanks, guys. This has been great. Thanks for joining us.
You're a game changer.
I'm so happy to help, because it shouldn't be. It's bloody hard enough. So it shouldn't be that hard. Parents deserve to sleep. We all deserve to sleep. We all deserve that at the end of the day to relax a little bit. It doesn't make you a bad parent to want that. It's okay to want that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're definitely getting that now.
We are.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
No
Thank you
thanks
so
so much.
much.
That's all right. Thank you.